one of the things I find so hard, man, is staying like consistently positive and happy on this journey to financial freedom, because what I find as I like learn more and do more, my life becomes a bit more intense, which kind of takes me away from what used to make me happy. And like, it's so tough to find that balance, isn't it? And, you know, today I'm pretty excited just to explore different ideas, situations that both of us have found ourselves in and forced ourselves to come out to, like, find happiness or maintain a happy life whilst also achieving financial freedom.
Bro, you can figure out how to be happy all the time. Let me know.
I know, right?
Like, I just have fully accepted that some days I'm going to have anxiety. Like, some things on this journey are going to flare me up. Like,
yeah.
Even when I was at uni, right, and, you know, I was surfing like 350 days a year and skating 360 days a year. Like, and training 300 days a year. Like, my mind still wanted to play tricks on me. And so I just know that with the way that it's wired around survival, around fight, flight, and also around wanting you to live in the future, to like keep this carrot dangling that like more is going to make you feel better.
Yeah.
It's always going to be days of like ups and downs, man. Like, it's like the property market is the human brain. It's like, there's moments of boom, there's moments of bust. There's
Some people are like property, others are like crypto.
Exactly, man. I'd rather be property.
I think the just acceptance of that is you know, the first step to just realizing it. And I found recently that like I had a bit of a weird day and I started trying to process everything, and, you know, was just trying to figure out why I was unhappy. And one of the things that pulled me out of it was the realization of like, well, this is meant to happen. Like, I'm meant to feel like this right now. And the experience of feeling like that actually made me realize that when I feel good, I only feel good because of the bad days that I've had. So this, what we were talking about, that polarity, that duality of life, it's like there's no one without the other. And I think you're 100% right. Like, the goal isn't necessarily to be happy 100% of the time. It's just to be more aware of your thoughts and actions and how certain actions lead to certain thoughts.
100%, man. Like, I keep going through this thing in my mind. Like, I was having a really, really heavy start to yesterday. And then I'm like, everything in my body was wanting me to stay in that like prison that I was creating for myself in my mind for the day. And I decided to go get some food and go for a walk on the beach and have a swim at lunch. And I just did a couple of stretches, and I was just doing this thing in the water at the beach. I was like, I just fully surrender. Like, I was floating for like 10 minutes, and I'm like, I just kept saying like, I just surrender. Like, and then I started to go like, I'm so grateful for how I'm feeling right now. Like, I'm so grateful that I must have more to learn from anxiety because it hasn't left me yet. And I hopped out of the beach and I was still feeling wound up. But by the time I got home, even after the heavier part of my afternoon, I was feeling amazing. And then I walked through the door, and my daughter and I like really energetically aligned. And she's like, I feel amazing today, Dad. I feel like myself again. And I'm like, yes, we're back. And it was such a sick thing. And then, like, the afternoon was amazing. And then last night I went to bed at like early-ish, and I was in bed for 10 hours, but I was probably like, my mind was just going on certain things for maybe an hour and a half. And I woke up feeling a bit tired. And then I'm like, hang on, I was still asleep for like over 8.5 hours. And I got up, my daughter and I did a workout together, and I just felt like good again. And it's like, what I've learned, right, is on the days that are good or bad, still do the things that are going to get you feeling good in a week. And it's like, 100%. It's the hardest thing to do when you're feeling shit, because your body wants you to drink, eat bad food, sleep bad, binge watch stuff, like not look after yourself. But it's like, by doing those things on the good and the bad days, I've found there's more good days now. Yeah,
and like, there's no doubt about, you know, a natural endorphin and serotonin release from doing that type of stuff, with like connecting with your daughter, number one, and that love that promotes, and then also that physical activity that you do, and, you know, that naturally, like, scientifically releases endorphins, which makes you feel good as well. So there's like definitely things that you can do. And I find, even though I do have bad days, like, I'm still far more optimistic and far more positive than 99% of people in my life. And you know, that's a very fortunate situation to find myself in. But I still also think, even with my personality type, there is actions that you can take and routines or habits that you can put in place that actually take you out of your mind, bring you into the moment and give you a bit more perspective. Because I think that's all that we need sometimes, is rather than just like being in there fighting it, like just separating yourself from it and just actually going, taking a breath and going, okay, this is okay. We can move through this. We can overcome this.
You know, my psychologist and I talk about exactly that, like ACT or acceptance therapy. And it's like the simplest concept is like, I acknowledge that I'm feeling a bit wound up right now. I allow myself to continue to feel that way without judgment. Like, I allow my brain to run. I allow the chemicals in my body to feel weird.
Yeah.
And then I just completely accept where I'm at and I'm not trying to change it. And it's like, by going through that process of just acknowledging, allowing, and then accepting how you're feeling, it doesn't necessarily get rid of it or not. But like, let's say like you've got a feeling of anxiety or something, or depression in your body, and it's like by honing in and into the feeling and just observing the feeling, like the texture of it, like the frequency of it, like how heavy it feels, and then isolating it and just observing it, it almost like dissolves. It's like observing your brain when you're completely anxious or stressed out or like really on, or something scared you. It's like, hey, that's just a thought. And I've had that thought before and I've survived 100% of my worst days. You know what I mean? Like,
100%.
It's so powerful doing this work.
Yeah.
It just is so hard to do.
You know, in terms of like practically how we can try and find happiness and achieve financial freedom, like, let's get into the nuts and bolts of it. Now, I think for us, one of the big things that allows us to do it is having like a clear plan, a clear strategy, so that we're not constantly bouncing around thinking about different ideas, different strategies, because it's crazy overwhelming when you look at the world. And then like, even if you just type in investment ideas into Google or into YouTube, limitless, right? Like, it is literally limitless, and that becomes extremely overwhelming. And when you're trying to become the jack of all trades to figure out what you need to specialize in, it can be crazy overwhelming. So I think personally for me, like, having a clear defined strategy, a clear defined plan that I know exactly what I need to do and when, helps me forget about the investment journey and just stay present in the moment.
I love that, man. Like, I feel exactly the same way. And I think 90% of the people that I've spoken to, who are the 10% of society, are struggling with that commitment to a plan. And so it's very, very difficult at the start. The simplest way to do this, I think, is to go, I want to be financially free, and I want 100 grand a year of passive income in the future.
Yep.
How am I going to do it? Stocks, property, crypto, business, something else. I chose the property lane because it's the simplest and it's the only way that I can safely use leverage without being like a hedge fund. And so I went property, and then I went 100K. How much rent do I need per annum? I need $2,000 a week. How do I get $2,000 a week? I can buy 2 houses that rent for $1,000 a week, or I can buy 4 houses that rent for $500 a week, or I can buy 3 that rent for $750 a week. But that is as simple as it has to be. Like, we overcomplicate the crap out of it. And I did this for like the first 8 years of my journey. Like, I got bored with buying houses, so I renovated. I got bored with renovating, so I built. I got bored with building, so I subdivided. I then went to like Airbnbs because like I was jumping around looking for the shortest possible route. Or if I had have just bought 2 great houses in Sydney, built 2 great granny flats on them 10 years ago, I'd be in the same position as I am now without all of the stress and the pressure. So commitment to an asset class, commitment to a number, and then this is what I'm going to do. And like, once I've done it, then I'll think about what else I want to do after that. But it's like, just follow through on the first step and get to the last step. And
then it's just a process at that point in time as well. It's like, once you've got your overarching plan and strategy and idea, you've committed to that, then the easiest part is figuring out what your next step is, which is which is more often than not talking to a broker. Can I do anything right now? Yes, great. Action. No, action in a different way, which is building a budget, saving, continuing to move forward. and just taking that strategic action at every single point of that journey. But then you get to sort of where you're at now, where it's that slow period, consolidation, just paying it down and things like that, which is a bit of a transition. And at that point in time, you also need to change the psychology in your mind as well, because you're going from like hustle, save, invest to, wow, I've done a lot. I need to slow down and start, figuring out how I can pay down the debt and how I can actually realize this passive income goal as well. And, throughout that journey, there's going to be identity crises and like identity deaths as well. And you're going to become a new person because you're forced to it at different stages, which challenges us and forces us to become better versions of ourselves as well, I truly believe.
100%, man. Like, I was listening to this thing on the way to work yesterday morning. It was Bradley Cooper talking about, obviously he's one of the top performing producers and actors in the world, and he's maintained it for quite a period of time. Like, he's interesting. And he sort of said that he only has one goal or two goals. One is to work with great people and two is to get better. And
Love that.
his whole life is boiled down to that simple concept. And the funny thing about like getting to that simplicity is it took him 20 years of non-simplicity to figure that out. And I hope like when people watch our videos around the 2 properties, the financial freedom strategy, or the 3, that they can fast track some of the stuff that you and I have had to go through and sort of get into something that resonates with them and then like follow through on a simpler strategy without having to go through all the pain. But, I was listening to this other thing the other night, and it was like the wound is where the light enters. It's like this concept of like you have to be cracked and you have to break to grow. And it's like the way you break your muscle in the gym if you train. It's the way that you get better at surfing if you're a surfer. Like, it's the way for all things. And it's like so many of us watching this, listening to this, will happily like break their body. But as soon as the mind starts to crack, it's like freak out, because like your mind is overthinking the cracking versus, hey, like you said it to me recently, it's just a growth day. A growth day,
and enjoying that process, enjoying that learning and changing your perspective from, a challenge is scary to a challenge is growth. It's learning. And, Denzel Washington talked about the exact same concept that Bradley Cooper does there as well, where it's like if you just have a habit of wanting to continuously learn, just get that little bit better each and every day in different aspects of your life.
Millimeter.
Yeah, it's a tiny little 1%ers, and over time, they add up, they stack up over time, and that's it's the compound effect of those actions, of those decisions that will enable you to change your life and become the best version of yourself as well. But, when going through the tough times, like I can't even express how important it is to be that person that looks at challenges as an opportunity to grow. Like Joe Rogan talks about it a lot. Tony Robbins talks about it a lot. A lot of these really high net worth, really, present motivators, they talk about the idea that when we're in our comfort zone, nothing's changing. We're not growing in our comfort zone. And we've grown up in this society where it's like we're all striving for comfort. We're all trying to find a comfortable life, but that's when things get a little bit boring, and that's when things are going to not really be continuing to move in the direction that you want them to be. So we need to crack. We need to have these situations where we're forced to be out of our comfort zones and learn new things, because from that, we figure out a new way of operating. We figure out a new way of communicating with the world, of overcoming challenges, and then we've got a bigger arsenal to deal with those experiences in the future when they come up. That was all I had.
Yeah, I was just trying to think about that was just really good. I don't know what to say to that.
But I guess to kind of, go on top of that, like some of the things that I personally feel has helped me in that journey is knowing myself. Like I've done a lot of work on my personality type, and even looking into the astral signs and stuff, which is a little bit weird, but at the same time relevant. And also understanding my values and understanding my goals, what motivates me, what actually makes me unhappy. all of these things help understand. And then when you fall into these modes of, you know, being unhappy or feeling as though you're not moving towards where you want to be, you can quickly check in and you can quickly look at yourself and you can go, all right, well, am I living in alignment with my values? Am I doing the things that, you know, make me happy? And you'll recognize if you're an aware person that, you know, you're either not or you are, and then you can quickly correct those things and then it'll push you back on your path. So you've got to constantly check in, but you got to actually know what makes you tick and what makes you happy as well.
100%, man. Like, I think that journey to self-discovery, regardless of where it starts, like for me, it started in personal development books, then business books, then property books, then podcasts, then YouTube videos, you know what I mean? And for everybody, that journey looks different, but like start with what is inspiring you, like start with what's exciting you. Like for me, the reason I chose property as my journey is I read Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and it lit a fire in me that fucking thank God, like I've found what it is that is going to get me to where I'm supposed to be. That was when I read it, I'm just like, oh, what a relief. Like I've read hundreds of books to this point. Finally, one of them resonated with me around business, around property, and around, hey, like I'm not crazy for not wanting to work the way that everyone else works. I thought I was actually mad. Like I thought I was literally going crazy. And then I've read this book and I'm like, oh, this guy's sold 1 million copies. Maybe like I'm not the only one that's like thinks this society and structure is a little bit broken. And so it cracked it open, and then he's like property, and I'm like, if he had said shares, I'd probably be talking about stocks right now. Like honestly, it was that big a book for me. But I read property and I went, well, who's the number one in property in Australia? John McGrath.
Yeah.
And then what are like all of the best-selling books? And I ordered like literally the best-selling books in Australia, America, and I read every single one of them, and like it confused the hell out of me. Like what I realized really quickly is like no one was making it simple in the way that I wanted to. I'm like, why do I have to buy heaps of properties again? Like obviously there's ballers like John McGrath and Robert Kiyosaki and Steve McKnight. I just want the minimum effective dose for a good life. Like no one was talking about that 10 years ago. And so I was like, sweet, like what if I just want to do 3 or 4 or now 5, you know what I mean? Like that was really helpful to just go through all of that discovery and then go sift this. And then the best thing that ever happened to me is just as things were starting to look good and I was getting closer to my goal, I got chronic anxiety for like years. And it just disjointed me to this like thing that unfortunately many of us experience, which is like, oh, this extra like money or identity is actually making me happier. And it just like snapped me in half. And my psychologist said it to me better than anyone else. He's like, your old identity is dead, which is like the more goals, the more achievement, the more stuff, but your new identity hasn't had time to form yet. And I walked in one day and I'm like, I don't know who I am. Like food at that point was like tasting like nothing in my mouth. Like I'd lost my zest for life because I just didn't know who I was anymore. And he's like, I said, I don't even know who I am. And he's like, yes, you do. You were born to know. And then he said, you are your values. So we figured out what I value. And then he said to find your way back to happiness in yourself, make the most consistent towards those things that are important to your soul every day. Training, family, being present, being in nature. Like so simple. And then, man, you get bumped off course a shitload. You know what I mean? Of course it's life, but it's like when you get a bit of yourself and you realize that more isn't going to make you happy. Yeah. Like this is the thing of how many friends do we have that are like, when I do this, I'll be happy. When I get that, I'll be happier. Like we talk to hundreds of clients a year in that headspace, and it has to start there. But the worst thing is getting there and you're still not happy and then going, shit, I've really got to figure this out. Yeah. And people chase the next thing all the way through life, but it's like financial freedom brings choices. Might as well create happiness if it's going to take you 15 years to be free. Like you might as well be happy all the way through, or like happy most days, most moments. Yeah, or just like get yourself out of those bad moments if they are truly bad at the time as well, you know, just like not staying there. But I guess it's like
it's funny how everything happens for a reason, right? And like you were meant to become a really young, successful investor and then go through that identity crisis at an earlier age and then pivot to the person that you're truly meant to become. Because like you look back at yourself back in your early 20s and it's just like, I don't align with that person's values or goals or lifestyle at all anymore. And now it's like I finally found myself. So you had to go through all of that to figure out who you are. And like, I may have not even had that experience yet. You know, I'm still super young and there's probably so many people that may have been shown those cards but haven't noticed them or haven't got to that point in time yet. But it's cool to know that like all of these things do happen for a reason, whether it's good or bad. It's like trying to find the good out of those bad situations.
You know, like if people really want to work on that stuff, what I would say is like, as I look back now and I'm like, you know, God or the universe or whatever was just, I feel like it started as like, I feel really off today. Like I feel really off this week, or like I don't feel like myself at the moment, or my character as I see myself and my actions are out of alignment. And it's like these subtle little things, hey, like you're slightly off path, tweak back on. Mm-hmm. And it was like, and I was like at a point where I was like, we had a really young business, really young kids, and I was like trying to just keep my shit together really. And I was investing and doing way too much with that at the same time and building and selling other businesses on the outside of this stuff. And like, I look back now and so many times it was like, you're working and thinking about this shit too much was the common theme.
Yeah.
And it's like, working too much is okay if you don't think about what you're working on outside of it. But if it becomes your 24/7, 365, you will burn out. And it's like, it came in the first form of like, you're just you're tired. And I didn't know that instead of quitting and running away or fighting it, you could actually just rest.
Yeah.
And so like it kept kicking in my cortisol and I kept wanting to like go harder because I think more control, more future goals, more present goals is going to bring me more certainty and like stabilize the way that I'm feeling, which is like, you're just doing too much, man.
Just too much control.
Out.
Yeah.
The control is like the first sign that I know I've got anxiety, but I don't see it often for like 3 to 7 days later.
Sure.
And then I look back and I'm like,
whoa,
what the fuck?
What happened
just
there?
Happened, man. Like, now I was overtraining. I was like overriding my goals. I was looking at my calendar outside of work. I was like, had my phone on me more often. Like, I was stayed up for these 3 nights to binge watch this show later. And it's like, it's just subtle.
It's so like hard that you had to go through that, but it's such a blessing because now you like, if you see your kids go through something like that, you've got the awareness to help them. Even me, like the other day, I had a bit of a weird day and Ben gives me a call up the next day and it's just like, hey man, like I noticed that you weren't really yourself. Are you okay? Is everything all good? And I just realized that I'd been in that mode because, you know, Ben's given me a promotion at work and I've been doing a lot of work to try and learn and to try and be a better leader and a better manager and just help people. And like my life, like before work has been watching YouTube videos and podcasts, at lunch going for a run, training, but also at the same time listening to podcasts and YouTube videos about all of this stuff. And then I'd finish work and then I'd come home and I'd be doing the same thing. And Ben's just like, no wonder, man, like you just haven't been giving yourself your time. And then I have one weekend where I don't have any time for myself. I'm just like, you know, giving my time to other people, which you need to do. And then I'm just like, it comes crumbling down. It's like for you to be able to just recognize that in me, call me out on it and support me to kind of just be like, hey, I just noticed this one thing, just, you know, do the right things. And you're like, get a good night's sleep, eat the right food, you know, train again and things like that. And I've been able to get out of it. But what I find is, you know, when setting goals, I can become extremely ambitious and excited about those goals. And I just want to be there now. Like I don't have any patience. I don't have the patience. It's like, oh, I'm 29, I need it by 30. But I'm working on that and I do understand it is much more of a longer term plan. But one thing that I really believe helps me in the day-to-day moments with an intense lifestyle and an ambitious lifestyle, I need to have a balanced life, and I need to have my hobbies and the things that I enjoy doing that are completely separate from my financial goals and my interpersonal goals, that are just like fun. It's just nothing but fun at the moment. That's like
100%.
surfing, hanging out with friends, training, whatever it might be. They're sort of the main things that I want to do in that point in time. And it's just like really, really nice to have that, where it's like, okay, cool. I realize I've been going too hard in this one direction, and I can't remember who talks about it, but somebody does, where it's like, success isn't just financial success. It's a balance of all of them. And some people get too focused on their financial success or their family success or their health success or whatever it might be. And when you're too heavy on one, it means another is falling by the wayside. But to be truly happy, you need to have a balance of all of these things, and you need to be working on each and every single one of them at the same time. So for me, I just like know that if I've been doing too much, it's just like, cool, take a little bit of a breather, just watch some surfing stuff, watch some football stuff, like just mindless stuff that I don't need to think about, and wake up the next morning and go for a surf. And then like normally I'm straight back into it.
100%, man. Like when I did my wrist thing, which some of you guys would have seen in the content for a little while there, it was the first major injury I've ever had where I couldn't like fake my way around 99% of movement. And I like literally got to this point about a month in where I'm like, I Googled, how do I slow down? I don't even know how. And this book comes up called Rest. Highly recommend it. But one of the chapters in it talks about people, like everybody watching this, that are consistently doing a little bit more. Like you're listening to this, like that's a little bit more than the person who's doing something else. And so it's like, for this book, the chapter was called Deep Play, and all high performers, whether they're artists, whether they're engineers, whether they're scientists, whether they're performers, like a lot of the book was actually focused around creatives, because creatives, it feels like play, but it's work. And it's like that separation is really tricky. Sam, behind the camera here, probably knows what I'm talking about sometimes. And it's like, this deep play concept is like, find something that you really, really enjoy just for the fun of it, but it's also slightly technical enough to progress over the longer term. And it could be rock climbing, it could be sailing, it could be
Playing
surfing,
guitar.
it could be guitar, something that challenges your body and your mind in a completely different way. Like
yoga.
It could be yoga, it could be whatever that is. But it's like there were some other absolute pieces of gold, because I feel like on the way to where we're supposed to go, you've almost got to touch too much. Whether your version of too much is talking to other two people about it too much, like I used to, or looking at stuff so much online because you think it's going to make you more of an expert, versus finding like one or two channels that you really, really vibe on and listening to their stuff a couple of times a month. They talked about the power of walking. They talked about the power of meditation and breathing and good food and movement. They talked about the power of sleep, and not just sleep, but like micro naps. And they talked about the power of mini vacations in this book, plus deep play. And I kind of thought, like, why don't I know this? Like, it's almost as foundational as like the food pyramid in school.
Right.
To like looking after yourself longer term and protecting your energy and your mind and your soul to do your best life's work. And, to become the best version of yourself takes 80 years, not a year or not 8 weeks. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. And, that's that flow state. It's like when everything's working perfectly, it just feels so natural. And then generally when you fall into those times, it's like, if you look at what you've been doing, it's all of the right stuff. You've probably had a good night's sleep, you've eaten the right food, you've had, meaningful connections with your loved ones, you've been training, and you're just in that flow state. And then it can all come crumbling down pretty quickly as well if you're not looking after yourself in the right ways. But it's so cool that like all of that stuff is out there, but at the same time, we still got this bloody reptilian brain up there that just plays tricks on us all the time. So there's no easy way to do it. You've really just got to figure out your own method. You've got to figure out what works with you internally and keep practicing at that. And it will change constantly over time. You know, that's the happiness side of things. With the investment side of things, it's kind of the opposite. You know, you really need to just pick your lane, become an absolute expert and specialist in that lane, and do nothing but that until you've achieved it. And then from there, you've got an amazing wealth of knowledge that you can then focus into other avenues and things like that as well. But I feel as though a lot of people that are working towards financial freedom are trying too much, that they'll never get there. Whereas if they just picked one lane, they would get there in time.
I love that, man. Like, there's this incredible guy that's got videos online called Dennis Waitley. He was the American Olympic team psychologist for like 22 years, like the longest standing psychologist in any country's professional team for so long. And he trained 12-year-old gymnasts through to like 35-year-old horse riders, like everybody. And he was the go-to guy. And he said the strangest thing about committing to one thing for 10 years and becoming an expert is people will allow, like, we're talking about health and mindfulness and psychology right now, but we're just property dudes.
Yeah.
Like he said it, and he's like, when you niche in, which is the hardest thing in your life to ever do, because you're niche and nobody really is niche, you will get an opportunity to go broad again.
Yeah.
Which everybody is a Renaissance person. Everybody really wants to like have happiness and have relationships that are meaningful and spend time in nature and move and travel and do meaningful work and contribute to society.
Yeah.
Like we really do as humans, like to become our best versions of ourselves, I think have to sit across many things. But to sit across many things, sometimes like you've got to do one thing really well. And you know, if there's things that we talked about for like rest or for mindfulness or for psychology or for, you know, there's also property rules. Now, the rules in property are figure out a lane, create a plan, draw a line in the sand of how much income you want in the future or how much total value, then save money, invest money, save money, invest money, save money, invest money until you've got enough to hit the plan, and then pay off debt, pay off debt, pay off debt, and do it as safely as you possibly can and enjoy the journey. Like, there's only really 3 things I said there.
And like a lot of people don't like that is so simple, and people want to overcomplicate things, and that's boring, right? Like that's boring.
Certainty, uncertainty, like the bottom of the Maslow's pyramid is those 2 things, and we jump between them constantly. Just don't jump with property.
Yeah, like it's boring, and it's a consistency, and this is why I think most businesses fail in the first 18 months, because they just can't commit to the consistency that it takes to get there. Like, I was listening to the Bezos YouTube documentary, and he's like, the idea is 5%, the execution is 95%.
100%.
And it's so true. It's like any of us can have that, you know, idea or that thought. And I think about over the last like maybe 5 to 10 years, that idea and that desire for people to become entrepreneurs, because everybody wanted to do all of this different stuff and it seems so desirable. But it's just like, actually, if you can just, you know, pick the thing that fills your heart and allows you to live with like a bit of passion, but then still do the reps. You know, there's still times in my week, in my months, where I'm just like, oh, this is quite monotonous work right now, but it's that needs to be done to ensure that the end result is positive.
100%, bro. You know, business, property, health, relationships. There's this great quote from like Lao Tzu, and it's like, when you see the way in one thing, you'll see the way in all things. And it's like, it's so powerful. Life is so simple. It's just my bloody brain wants to keep making it hard for me. And, you know, I'm working on that, and I feel like I'll probably keep working on that for the rest of my life. But that's the fun of it, right?
Yeah.
Like, that's the fun, to like figure this stuff out without the pressure. Like, one thing I said to you and the whole team earlier in the week that I say to myself all the time is, we cannot control the outcome. We can just absolutely love and engage in the activity. Like, if you let go of the expectations around any part of your life working out a certain way, then whatever result comes from the activity is going to be the right result. But it's like, if you want to spike the activity, like there's walking and then there's running and then there's HIIT training.
Yeah.
And it's like, if you want to temporarily spike the activity to fast track the result, you can. but you can't do 24 hours in a day of HIIT training. You can
No.
walk for 24 hours though.
Yeah.
And so it's like, do you want to fast track it, or are you happy to get there over 15 years? I've made my peace that property is an important part of my life, and I love this work that we do to help people. But I also love surfing, man. I
Yeah.
love traveling. Like, I love my family. Like, I love working 4 days a week and taking 6 weeks off a year. Like, there's so much more that I couldn't see in my 20s. I could only see financial freedom. And now it's like, oh shit, like I was still living good, but now like I'm choosing to live deliberately, and that's changed everything.
Yeah, and I can feel it as well with myself, like just those common themes that you hear all people in their 20s talk about, like, I can do it all, like, you know, it's on my back. And
It's exhausting.
and yeah, now like last year I had a bit more of that realization of like, I'm at peace. Like I'm okay if this takes me another 15 years. I'm only going to be in my mid 40s. You know, like it is okay to slow down, to speed up. And that realization took so much pressure off, took so much weight off my shoulders, and I felt so much better from it. But then, you know, this year I've seen like a bit more of a reintroduction of like a bit more of that go, go, go mindset. And I need to just remember to just slow down, continue working away at the plan. Things will work out in time. And yeah, like that's what I'm going to have to constantly do. Just keep checking in with myself, keep checking in with my values, keep checking in with my goals, keep checking in with the habits and the rituals and the activity that I'm doing. And
Fall in love with the process, man. Like fall in love with the activity. I just read the Matthew McConaughey book, and he was so big on that. And he's just, when he fell back in love with his work, not the work, but the helping people side or like the growth side, he's like, it all changed for him. And I talk about it with my psych too. Like we talk about cutting grass. You can maintain grass, and we talk about a pendulum. When I started to see him, I was swinging like that. And a swing for me could last like months. It was heavy. Now it's just like, oh, I feel a bit off. Cool. Like, what am I doing at the moment to feel that way? And I've got this like little list of like, I call towards decisions and away decisions. And I just keep that on me. And it's like, normally when I'm feeling shit, it's because like I'm living in like all of these little micro things that the average person probably hasn't observed in themselves. But you know when you're off. Like, you know, if you're close to yourself, which everybody listening to this is. And it's just, it's the same with property. It's like there's many different versions of this online. There's many different people with completely different personalities and value systems and the way that they're getting there. But it's like when you find those people that you resonate with, then it's like, cool, like that takes a little bit of pressure off. When I found the property couch, guys, I was like, this is really sick information that is very valuable. When we started doing our own stuff, I'm like, what property couch dudes? Like, no disrespect, but I was like, this is my lane, because it's like the things that I care about on camera. And it's like, it's so exciting when you get to that point.
Yeah, and get to share these things, and just hopefully, like, even if just one person hears something and their life improves from this, and that's all that we're really hoping for as well. And like just taking that pressure off, like there's no results that we're hoping to achieve. It's just like, let's have meaningful conversations. Let's see what comes out from it, and hopefully, you know, we can help a few people along the journey. So, yeah, I hope, you know, if one of you is sitting there listening to this podcast today, I hope that it's, you know, supported you in one way or another. You know, we're just figuring out this stuff ourselves and trying to share the things that we're learning each week, each month, each year, and you know, just making those towards decisions with each other. And you know, we want to promote like a really positive, empowering community. We want to beat that tall poppy syndrome. We want to really help one another overcome those challenging situations in our life and move towards a person that we want to become, you know, from a happiness perspective, but from a financial freedom perspective, because, you know, there's monks out there that can be happy that have nothing, but I like going up the beach in my car. Like I like going on holidays. I like taking my partner out for you know, dinners and lunches and things like that.
Steak dinner.
Love those $60 steak dinners, baby. You know, I like the finer things in life, and, you know, need money for that, right?
You know, for those of you, because I've gone through times where I've like, you know, and you guys do too, like next time you're going through a time that's feeling rough, I really recommend, there's these short videos on YouTube by this guy, Russ Harris. They talk about like the way that the brain works, and they talk about like ACT or acceptance therapy, and anxiety and depression and fight mode and runaway mode, and just they're 2 to 3 minute videos. And one of them, the anxiety one, I must have watched twice a day for 4 years. Like, it was that powerful me, this 3 minute video, because it just gave me the perspective that my mind couldn't see when I was in it, of just like, I'm having anxiety about my anxiety is anxiety. Like, it's just, I'm in the hole. The other dude who's worth watching, the biggest legend on the planet right now, Charlie Rocket.
Yeah.
You know, this guy's the winning streak guy. He's blowing up over there in the States. He's basically bought this bus, and he goes around just donating money. He used to be this like gangster that represented all the rappers in like Hollywood, and was like really successful and like very wealthy. Got cancer and decided that he wanted to spend the whole rest of his life serving others. And he just goes and like help someone that can't pay their rent. And he, like, his content is so inspiring, and he'll go pick a homeless dude off the street that loves art, and he'll take him to the art supply shop and just get him a year's worth of art stuff.
Yeah.
And just like these little daily impacts that just make other people's lives better. Because at the end of it all, the way out of it is to stop focusing on yourself and to start focus on others. And both of these people show you how to do that. So we just wish you all the best, guys, and hope you vibe with this one today.
Woo! That's a wrap.
That's a wrap.
Getting full, bro. Yeah.
Oh, sweaty. So sweaty. Oh, that's good. That's so nice, eh? Oh.